Imagine you wake up in a hospital bed, connected by tubes and machines to a world-famous violinist. You were kidnapped and hooked up against your will because you were the only person in the world with the biology capable of sustaining his life. If you do not remain attached for the next 9 months, he will die. Do you have a moral responsibility to stay connected to the violinist? Judith Jarvis Thomson introduces this thought experiment in her essay, A Defense of Abortion, in an attempt to raise the intuition that requiring someone to endure such a burden is unreasonable. While sacrificing 9 months for the violinist would be generous and even admirable, Thomson argues that this act would be supererogatory or above and beyond moral obligation. She connects this to abortion. If it is not morally obligatory to remain attached to the violinist, then it should likewise be permissible to terminate an unwanted pregnancy, at least in some cases. Thomson's argument is notable because it does not depend on denying the personhood of the fetus. Even if one grants that the fetus has the same moral status as a fully developed human, the right to life does not entail the right to use somebody else's body. This distinction forms the foundation of her defense. To further strengthen her case, Thomson introduces 2 additional analogies. First, consider the expanding child scenario, where you are trapped in a room with a child growing rapidly, threatening to crush you. The only way to save yourself is to kill the child, and while the child is innocent and not acting maliciously, Thomson asserts that self-defense is justified. Just as you have the right to protect your life in this scenario, so too does a mother in a life-threatening pregnancy. Next, imagine a world where people seeds float through the air like pollen. A seed can take root and grow into a child if it enters your house. You take precautions by installing the best window screens available, but one seed slips through and starts growing in your carpet. Do you have the right to remove the seed? Thomson argues yes. If you took every reasonable step to prevent the seed from entering, you are not morally obligated to allow it to grow. Similarly, in cases of contraceptive failure, abortion can be morally justified because the individual took steps to avoid pregnancy. While Thomson's arguments are compelling, they're not without criticism. Her paper primarily addresses cases of rape, contraceptive failure, or life-threatening pregnancies, where the burden of continuing the pregnancy seems particularly severe. Critics argue that her analogies fail to justify abortion in typical cases where sex is consensual and pregnancy is a foreseeable outcome. For instance, in the violinist case, you did nothing to cause your predicament, whereas engaging in consensual sex involves a responsibility for the resulting fetus. The expanding child analogy is also unsettling for some as it justifies killing an innocent person to save one's own life, raising other moral questions. Similarly, in the people seeds analogy, critics point out that opening your windows, despite your precautions, implies some responsibility for the resulting seed. This complicates to claim that abortion is morally permissible in cases of contraceptive failure. Thomson's A Defense of Abortion primarily targets those with extreme anti-abortion views, encouraging them to recognize uncontroversial cases where abortion is widely accepted, such as rape or life-threatening pregnancies. However, its scope is limited, and it may not be the strongest pro-choice argument for defending abortion in more typical scenarios.